What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show, man. We're getting ready to get into this whole breakdown of Power Book 2, Ghost Season 3, Episode 3, titled Human Capital, right? So the synopsis for this episode states that Tariq and the rest of the team must find a way to get the product flowing at an even bigger scale. Tensions rise amongst the Tejadas when Lorenzo backs Kane's plan. Saxe digs into Theo Rollins' case. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. Alright, so this episode starts off with 3 different things going on at one time. So first we see Tariq, Braden, who are with Davis at a suit shop. They get him fitted for a suit. And they're just talking over multiple things there while they're waiting to be fitted. Next, we see Effie dropping off a package. It looks like at a college campus to a friend who pretty much asks, how's everything going? And, then she asks, how's it going moving the weight on the campus? And Effie gives her, I ain't doing shit. So she was like, for real? Like, is this got something to do with Tariq? And, she didn't really say anything about it, or at least we didn't see anything. Next, we see Drew, who's doing the do. All right, so I'll leave it at that. And then while he's finishing with that situation, once they get done, he throws old boy's hands off of him, and he's going through social media, and he's looking at his boy. Like, he's going through the thread, trying to see what's going on. And he comes up on this picture or this image with a guy with his arm behind his back with a tattoo. It looks like a card with a lion that's tattooed on his wrist behind his back. So stay tuned. We'll figure out a little bit more about that later. Next, we see there's a text message that all of these individuals receive. You see Braden and Tariq at the suit shop. You see Effie. You see Kane, who is just now showing up at the penthouse. And they all receive this text message stating, get yourself down to the warehouse, like, right now. So when they get to the warehouse, it's Obi, he's pretty much been checking in on them, trying to see how the product is moving. And when he gets there, he's not too pleased to see what he's seeing because, the product has not been moved to where he thought it should be moved. So he pretty much said, okay, we're going to have to ante up on what we're looking for because you guys obviously are not motivated enough. So he said, shit, I'm going to have to go ahead and give y'all a reason to be motivated. So he pulls out of his pocket 3 images, 3 pictures of 4 individuals. The first one is of Diana, and he says, if we don't receive $1 million by the end of this week, she's going to be the first one to go. And I was like, damn. So Kane was like, for real, he really wanted to do something, but he knew old boy didn't come along, so it wasn't going to go down peacefully. Secondly, we saw the family of Braden. He said, we're going to get the Richie Riches. At first, I couldn't hear it, so I had to go back and look at it very quickly. But he pretty much threatened Braden's family as well. And then last but not least, to be polite, he said, we respect our elders. So if we don't get what we need, Tariq, we got to go after your grandmother. You know what I'm saying? We respect our elders. So I was like, damn, he gonna get granny, he gonna get sister, and he gonna get everybody in between, right? So next we see Whitman and Blanca. They're at the office, and they're soon to be joined by Sullivan, who walks in as he's impressed by all of the work that's been going on in the office. And so they are discussing the investigation, and Whitman gets, while they're discussing, he gets emotional about the whole, his girl Carrie. Like, we need to be focusing on Monet because she was the one to kill my girl Carrie, and she's part of us. Yeah, it was more than that, homie. But anyway, so they were like, hey, bro, you need to take your panties out of wad. Like, you need to hold on. You seem a little bit too emotional in this case right now. We need you to hold off. And so they keep going, and then they keep focusing on Tariq, like pointing everything. This Rico would be great with Tariq. He's going to be the piece of this puzzle. And Whitman gets pissed off even more because he was like, y'all telling me to take my panties out the wad, but you sitting up here keep talking about Tariq. Like, y'all got a hard on for this nigga. So he storms up out the office, and Sullivan pretty much stated, like, you work for me, like, you need to do what I tell you to do, right? So, all right, so next we see Tariq and Effie. They're walking on the college campus at Stansfield, and they're just talking about, like, how they were blown away about how, they had images of their family members. They knew, they were just thinking about how they knew where everybody was, and, like, they know their every move. So I pretty much knew that's how shit was going to go down, because nobody is going to, we don't really trust you. So we got eyes on your every move. We know where you're going. We know who you're talking to. That's pretty much how that shit goes down. So I wasn't shocked at that at all. And then she tells him, by the way, hey, I'm really interested about moving products on the campus. And at first Tariq was like, hell no, like, why you want to do all of that? And she was like, look, I've always done it on the side. Like, I've always done it. And then I'm also thinking about finishing undergrad and going on to get my master's. So I understood she got a game plan, do what you got to do. So he gave in, and he said, okay. He became a lot more supportive after hearing her stance on it. And he was like, yeah, that's cool. I think you should go and do what you do. So that was pretty much it on that part there. And then we get inside of the classroom, which is, like I've told you guys before, which is one of my favorite parts of these episodes, because we get to dive in more so into the topic or the title of this episode. So, of course, as I stated earlier, the title of this episode was titled Human Capital. And one of the things in the discussion that one of the guys said, I can't remember his name, he said, it's in a corporation's best interest to never let a worker know how much they're worth. And I said, damn, that's true. Because if you think about it, I've always questioned, and I know I'm not the only one, if you can pay me $100,000 to do this job, how much am I really freaking worth? Like, for real, am I worth 10 times that much? Because realistically, you're not going to give me everything I'm worth. And don't you notice when you go in for a job interview and shit like that, you go in, and I know when I talked to my wife about it, when she was going to do an interview a few years ago, she was like, damn, what should I ask for? And I was like, well, shoot high. You know what you're worth. You know what you got. You know the degrees you got. Go in there and shoot high. The only thing they can say is no. You know what I'm saying? And most of the time, like, people always knock guys for going in and just asking for outlandish type of shit. But real talk is, sometimes, ladies, you don't ask for your worth. And I know sometimes systematically it is what it is. But at the same time, if you never ask for it, then there's always going to be that lowball number. At least give them the opportunity to, shoot it down. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I thought that was a great comeback or a great comment on that, man. So, but anyway, while they were in the midst of their conversation, after the guy said that, Tariq comes for, I'm going to just call her Brew. You know what I'm saying? Because I always mess up her name. Bruce Shonda or something like that, about his job that was taken, he feels was taken from him and given to her. And she was like, no, don't comfort me with that. I don't know. It's something about her energy, man. I don't know, man. She does it for me, man. I don't know, man. But like I said, man, enjoyed the topic as always. So next we see Salim and Diana. They're walking and talking in the hallway, and he conveys to her pretty much that he looked up her father. And she got pissed off about it, like, nigga, why you going to look up my people? Why you got to go Google my people when you can just ask me and I can tell you straightforward? And I absolutely agree. Like, just go ahead, instead of trying to check me out behind the scenes, bro, just go ahead and ask her. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't do that. And while they were talking, he notices the guy by the way who happens to be Kane. He's just standing there. He eyed him down like, and Salim was like, who's old boy? Who's old boy staring at us like? And she was like, that's my real brother. So he comes up on him, and Salim tries to introduce himself. And Kane ain't trying to hear all that. You know, Kane from the street. He ain't trying to handshake. We ain't talking about no money right now. So now you can go ahead and put your hands down. That's pretty much how he was looking. Plus you trying to get up on my sister. So I absolutely understand, Kane. Hold it down. But anyway, man, Kane is, he's pretty much checking in on his sister because he's already a little bit concerned about what he had already heard earlier in the episode, talking about you gonna be the first one to go. So he tries to give her a gun. She was like, "What are you doing up here?" He was like, he didn't really go into details. He just says, "I'm just checking in with you." And then he started asking questions about Salim and Salim and he was like, "How much you know about him, where he come from and all this stuff." And true, I understand it, man. At this point, like, you can't really trust nobody unless you know where they are, you know where they're coming from. But at this point, these new people coming in, you can't really trust them like that. So I get what he was saying. And then he told her pretty much, "Hey, we're having a meeting back at the penthouse. I need you to be there. We're going to sit down at the table." So she was like, "Okay." All right, so next we see Whitman, who comes into the bar where Monet is, and he's trying to give her another opportunity to make things right. Like, go ahead, hey, you don't need to bring your lawyer and all that shit like that. What I need you to do is just come in, because I already know. In his head, he was like, you already dirty to me. I need you to come in and pretty much confess to killing Carrie. You know what I'm saying? I know you did it. I know that I know you dirty. So I need you to just come in and do what I know you need to do. And she threatened. She was like, "Hey, you don't need to be down here. The police bar's down the street. And look, I ain't got nothing to say to you. You can see your way up out of here." So he was like, "Okay." He was like, "So I'm going to give you this time. Think about it. Give me a call back." So when he leaves, he drops a little bit of shade there. He's talking about, how clean and how cleaned up it looks, definitely for a crime scene. So he was like, I'm gonna go ahead and check in. If you heard that, I'm gonna go back and check in on who the contractor is, because I want to know who they are as well. So of course, she's going to be alarmed by that, because number one, she had asked Davis to already nip this shit in the bud, but obviously Davis ain't done what he was supposed to do. I guess to a certain degree, Davis is still trying to be clean to a certain state. But at the same time, bro, we're paying you money to get the job done. So, of course, Monet was going to have to holler at Davis. So, Monet goes to see Davis later on that day to tell him about Whitman. Also, while she's there, she mentioned that he didn't have to call her, definitely if he didn't have any information. But she also told him at the beginning of that statement that, hey, if you coming to tell me about some shit that's going on about that whole situation, don't worry about it, because that whole situation with Zeke is dead. Like, we've moved on from that. So, and then she also told him, hey, go ahead and ditch that current burner, because I almost said Method Man, but Davis showed her. He was like, "Hey, I ain't call you. I'm glad that everything's going well, but I didn't call you for real." So, and then he shows her. So she pretty much tells her, "Hey, go ahead and delete that cell phone. He used this one instead." So I'm quite sure he'll get rid of it. But I know he's also thinking, like, what the hell is she talking about? So I'm quite sure he's going to go back and research what happened, right? So next we come to the meeting at the penthouse with Kane. And he has Lorenzo at the table. He has Diana at the table, and Drew. And so he's trying to convey that, to them, that he has a plan. And Diana, of course, is like, hold on, who died and made you king? Because should we be getting this information from Daddy? And he was like, no, and he looks at Lorenzo like, nigga, do I need to handle this or do you? So Kane reluctantly says, go ahead and listen to your brother, Diana. He knows best for the family. But that shit is eating that man up, because he really didn't want to say that. But he said it. But I wonder really how long this shit gonna last. I really do. So Drew states, after hearing the plan from Kane, he was like, hold on, you really talking about going in here, killing these guys that we've known for years? Like, what the fuck? What type of sense does that make, bruh? Because you already know that's going to start a war. So he suggested, instead of taking them out per se, go ahead and take out their connect, and then we can make them come to us, and we can become their connect. So Kane listened to him, and he was like, all right, that's smart. And you could see the look on Lorenzo's face like, okay, yeah. I knew he had it in him. And truth be told, as I've said earlier, and I've said it for quite some time now, if Drew can get his head out of the clouds and focus on the business, Drew would be the best one for the job. But unfortunately, he can't keep his head out of the clouds right now. He's still focused on old boy. It's time to let it go, bro. It's time to let it go, and let's focus on the business, and let's get this money. And that's where we should be. But of course, that's not where we are. So that's pretty much how we end that part of the discussion for this meeting. All right, so next we see both Tariq and Braden. They're sitting at some type of setting. It looks like a country club or something like that, and they're listening to this guy that we later find out his name is RSJ, who happens to be the richest black man in the world, just not in the United States. And they're there to set an appointment with him, or his uncle is there to set an appointment with him to gain his trust and his business as well. And while they're there, Tariq, of course, is taking all that he possibly can from the context. Like, I'm trying to learn everything I can. I'm a sponge at this point, and I love that about Tariq. I think Uncle Lucas is walking with Kiki. So Kiki is not pleased about this whole situation at all. She says it's not going to work. He's going to see right through this shit. And Uncle Lucas is like, all right, so, if you don't want to do it, all you got to say is, hey, I don't want to do it. Enjoy the festivities. Go get you a massage, some shit like that. Find your own damn way home. And that's pretty much how he left it, because when they got to the room where Braden and Tariq was, he was like, I guess one black face is better than the other. So all he was doing, like Kiki already knew, as well as Tariq, hey, we're just bringing you here to show face. That's pretty much what it is. So next we see, all right, so after RSJ finishes talking, he comes down and he actually meets with Lucas and the fellas in a separate room. And essentially, RSJ is like, you've been making, rubbing the wrong elbows. You've been making enemies out of friends, like, saying no to a lot of people that I'm cool with. And Lucas is like, hey, I'm trying to get the big wig. I'm trying to get the big money. And that's you. So hopefully I can, I got to make some sacrifices here and there to get to where I really ultimately want to get to. And that's to you. So they don't make any decisions, of course, that day. But RSJ does convey to him, hey, I'll be back in New York later. We can meet later on. So that was pretty much it of that meeting. Tariq also had a little sidebar conversation with him, asking him specifically about his speech, which he, had the opportunity to meet face-to-face with RSJ. And actually, RSJ asked him what his name was as well. So I'm interested to see how that's going to come out as well in the later part of episodes to come. I already know there's something tied to that. Next, we see Davis and Monet. They're meeting with Whitman at his office, and Whitman right now is currently not satisfied with the answers that he's not getting. He's not getting the damn thing from Monet, which he says in the conversation, like, this could be a great situation, but it seems like it's just one-sided. And Davis is like, okay, well, obviously my client has nothing to do with it. Woo, woo, woo. I mean, you can pretty much leave because she's not going to say anything. So, of course, in Whitman fashion, he's not going to let go that very easy. So he gets up and he goes in towards Monet and he starts throwing all these things at her. And, of course, Monet just can't shut her damn mouth, man. Like, just shut it, zip it. Like, just be quiet. But of course she cannot do that. And of course she lets the cat out of the bag by releasing some information that obviously Whitman was not privy of. So of course, at that point, Davis is upset because he's like, okay, damn, I only asked you to be quiet, shut your mouth, let me do the talking, and we can get up out of this thing, without a blemish. But of course, with her opening her mouth, Davis lets her know that pretty much he did not know that information about GTG. Now he's going to go and investigate it. So thanks a lot. And then you ask her, am I going to have to be nervous? Do I have something to be nervous about in this situation? Because if I need to, you need to let me know. All right? So anyway, we leave from that situation and then we head over to the dorm room of Diana and Becca Weston, in the dorm room. So Becca is reading this paper. It looks similar to the documents that Tariq and Braden used to send out with their product, right? So, of course, Diana comes in. She's opening up her mail. Looks like her first check from the bookstore or the candy shop, and she's pissed off. She's like, what the hell? And everybody that has worked at college or worked in a college environment, you already know what those checks look like. You already know what those checks look like, man. But anyhow, while she's sitting there, she's pissed off about it, but she also notices Becca and the form and the package that she has, and she was like, I thought that was done away with, but it looks similar to what your brother had. So of course she's going, she's playing the field. She's trying to get information and trying to find out what's going on. And Becca was like, yeah, but it looks very similar. And and Diana's like, yeah, I mean, now they know, we already know what that is. So we pretty much leave from that point. And where do we go from there? Tariq. We go over to Tariq and Braden. They're meeting at a warehouse to discuss their plans to move the product, and Tariq suggests how to move the product. They'll use coffee beans, coffee shop or something like that, like Starbucks, right? But instead of that, they'll have a cup where it has a hole in the bottom where they can place the product for the individuals to, have. So I thought that was pretty brilliant. So Braden is sitting there like they're trying to brainstorm on what they can do. Now, if you go back to when Uncle Lucas, Braden, and Tariq were back at the country club, they were getting ready to leave. Lucas conveyed a lot of information about Bitcoins and things like that directly to Braden, who was obviously listening. Like, nobody's really concerned about, these coins at this point. They really, they're pretty much worthless at this point. So Braden, thinking outside of the box, is like, okay, this is what we can use. And he said, but in order for us to do this, we need to actually run this idea by, the rest of the team before we just make a decision without really, covering all our bases. So Tariq and Braden, they meet up with Kane and Drew back at the penthouse. And Kane tells Braden, that sounds pretty cool. And they're just interested in the logistics, how it's going to work. So pretty much Braden and Tariq are going to work in the, Wall Street. They're going to work in the corporate America field. And then Kane and Drew, they're going to work it in the streets, like it was already set up previously. So that's pretty much how they're going to do it. And so the guys decide, okay, we're going to end this meeting right here. We're going to get ready to leave. So Braden and Tariq gets ready to leave. And before they get ready to leave, Kane is like, hold on, Tariq, I'm going to go ahead and meet with Braden real quick. So while Kane is meeting with Braden, he tells him that, hey, you the nigga that's going to be killing, the Connect. And this is how I want you to do it. I want you to kill him when he's getting ready to leave mass. And of course, Braden's like, hold on, wait a minute. No, I used to go to a Catholic school. Like, you really about to send me to hell right now. And Kane was like, oh boy, you already got a first row seat, bro. You might as well let that go. You already going. So whatever you do now is just going to be a minor improvement at this point. So that's what it is. So Tariq receives a message from Davis while he's sitting. Oh yeah. So let me go back real quick. Tariq receives a message from Davis saying that they need to meet. So as they're leaving the meeting, that's exactly where Tariq is going. Tariq is going to meet with Davis at his office. And when he gets there, he sees Monique and not Monique. And when he gets there, he sees Monet as well. So while they're all in there, they're talking about everything that's going down, how Whitman has been, spying on Monet and coming in and interrogating her and keeping his eyes on everything that's going down. Davis was like, you were right, Tariq. Somebody did have their eyes on the penthouse. And so Davis is pretty much telling him, hey, be careful, be on the lookout because we don't know what's about to go down, right? So, but just stay on the lookout. Do not come nowhere near Monet. That's pretty much what Davis says to Tariq. Don't come no damn where near Monet, all right? So while they're in their meeting, though, Saxe takes a photo. He hears the conversation. He comes through and he takes a photo of all three of them in there talking in the office. Now, he can't hear the conversation, but he's taking that picture. I already know to send over to Sullivan, all right? So next we see Effie and Braden. They're back at the dorm room. They're talking about the idea that Kane came to Braden, with about killing the Connect. So while they're talking about it, Tariq comes into the dorm room and he can already tell that something is not right. So he was like, what's up? And Effie is like, we're going to tell him. He's going to find out anyway. So Braden pretty much conveys to him, hey, Kane wants me to kill the Connect. And Tariq is like, what the hell? Like, why couldn't he just tell me? I could have done it for him. You ain't never killed nobody. But he doesn't know on the back end of this that Kane has already had Braden kill somebody, supposedly, right? But, he's just, he doesn't know all of that. Because I'm quite sure he would not be having this conversation right now. Definitely with the person that he was supposed to kill. But anyhow, so he says, it's cool. We're going to support you either way. We're going to be there as well just to make sure everything goes as scheduled. And he goes out to go get some guns. So while he's leaving out of the dorm room, after he leaves out of the dorm room, Effie turns to Braden and she's like, are you going to be able to do it this time? Like, unlike last time? And he was like, do I have a freaking choice? Like, I don't really have a choice at this point. Like, I got to do what I got to do. And she was like, right. At some point, you already pretty much knew that you were going to have to get your hands dirty and all of this. So from that point, we go back to, where do we go? Oh, we go back over to Blanca and Sullivan. Now, Sullivan and Blanca, they going off right now because they pissed off at Whitman. Whitman obviously ain't been playing by the rules. Now they done got notification that he's already been out there harassing somebody, so they're pissed off. So Blanca's like, hold on, why are you doing this? Like, you about to mess up our case, and I know you didn't tell this chick nothing about what we done told you. Please don't tell her about. Please don't tell me you told her about Tariq or Monet. Definitely about Tariq. And of course, he didn't really say nothing, so they was like, oh shit, like, okay, look, you about to be off this case, starting on Monday. And he's like, I really don't care. Good luck on y'all RICO case. It is what it is. And he pretty much, walks up out of that piece. So, of course, Blanca and Sullivan, they're like, okay, we need to figure this out. What are we going to do? And Sullivan says, I got an idea, but you're not going to like that shit. You're not going to like this shit at all, but I got an idea. So that's pretty much it with that one. All right, so next we see Effie and Diana, but before we see Diana, we see Effie putting things away in the stash blocks, and I call them the Bricko blocks because that's exactly what they are. And I need some shit like that. That would be awesome to have, right? Yeah, so Diana is in the stair rail when Effie comes in. She was like, okay, y'all niggas are keeping secrets from me. I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate all of that. Secondly, I don't like how you going in on Tariq, but you told me that Tariq wasn't good for me, but you going in on him. You know what I'm saying? So she was like, and I was right about that. Like, Tariq don't, she told her pretty much that Tariq doesn't feel the same way about her that she feels about him, and she was just pretty much trying to protect her. Secondly, about the drug situation, it is what it is. Like, join this shit. I'm cool with you. I ain't trying to lose no, I'm not trying to lose no money or no nigga. I ain't trying to lose none of that. Go ahead and do what, come on and join the team. Diana, of course, is like, no, I ain't joining y'all. I ain't into that. I'm cool with my little paycheck that I'm receiving from the candy store. All right. So pretty much she's getting ready to leave, but before she leaves, she receives a text message from Celine, who's apologizing for that whole situation from the other day, right? He's just trying to get in, man. It is what it it is what it is, man. But so she leaves after getting that text message, and then we go from there to Saxe, who is at the prison now, and he's meeting with Theo Rollins, right? So Saxe sits down with him, and he's just asking him questions, and the first thing that he asked about is his height. Like, obviously there was a discrepancy for the case where it was stated that he was about 6'2" or 6'3". Obviously, looking at Rollins, he's obviously not 6'2" or 6'3". So Rollins is like, Saxe is like, why did you take the deal that was offered? Because I see that you signed it knowing that there was a discrepancy in this case. So while he's sitting there, he's just putting two and two together. Like, obviously, this is not the guy that did the crime. All right? So at that time, I don't believe that he knew that Rollins was Davis's brother. But I think he started putting it together after he did a little more research down at the office as well. So pretty much Rollins was like, look, if you ain't here to really help me, you asking too many questions. It's time for my jello, nigga. I'm about to head up out of here, and I'll let Davis know that you came through. And that was pretty much it in that situation. Next, we head over to the restaurant where we see both Tate and Harper at the restaurant talking it over. She's asking about, who was old girl he was with, because she want to know. They had a little thing back in the day. So Tate was like, oh, she was nobody. She was just a good friend. But you know what? I ain't been feeling this type of way since I was with you. So of course it's like, yeah, right, nigga. But so of course when it started to get interesting, both Sullivan and Blanco had to show up out of nowhere and ask that man about his relationships. And pretty much he said, okay, Harper, let me deal with this, and I'll talk to you later. And she was like, you good? He was like, yeah, I'm good. So Blanco is asking him about his relationships because she's like, your campaign is like you're anti-drug, but it seems odd that you always surrounded with members of the drug community who are drug dealers. Like, what's really going on here? And of course, Sullivan had to put her 2 cents in it. Like, you would be a great congressman. So pretty much Tate was like, of course he's smooth as ever. So he was like, yeah, okay. But he says, I stand where I stand, essentially. But he says, y'all keep asking me about these people. And of course, Blanco asked him about Tariq. And Tate was like, yeah, I know Tariq. We actually had a internship planned for him. And it didn't go out the way it needed to, but I'm glad that he was able to get a an internship over at Western Holdings, which happens to be with his friend named Braden, who is actually the guy that admitted that he was a daggone drug dealer. And that pretty much shut Sullivan and both Sullivan and Blanco down, because they couldn't say shit about that, because he did admit to being the mastermind behind the drug dealing app. So that's why he was, expelled from school. So going from there, we see the Connect. He's at Mass, he's praying in a different language, and when the Connect comes out of, he comes out the rear of the building, Braden comes up to him and he's asking him about, did you order this food? Whoop, whoop, whoop. He's parked in the middle of the street, and off by the wayside, you see both Tariq and Effie. They standing off to the side in all black, and he's too nervous to pull the weapon. So while he's standing there, the Connect receives a text message like, where y'all, hey, where y'all at? Hey, I'm right here. They tell him that somebody's blocking the middle of the street, so they can't really get to him. So the Connect asked Braden, he was like, are you the one that's parked in the middle of the street? And he was like, you need to move that shit like right now. And Braden gets nervous. He starts to pull the bullet. He starts to pull the gun up out of his waistband, but he's not able to get it out. So Tariq has to come out and has to save the day. Of course, he puts about one or two in him. Then he comes up real close and finishes the daggone thing. By that time, the two guys that were coming to pick him up got out of the car, because they just saw what just happened, what transpired. So, of course, they saw everything that went down. They knew exactly who did it. Well, what color the guy was that did it. They knew exactly what race a person did it, and it was not Braden. So, of course, we're going to have some problems with that later, right? So, after that whole situation went down with the Connect, they run into a restaurant, they sit down, and they pay the hostess some money to sit them down at a seat at a table. And while they're there, Effie and Tariq, they have a side conversation talking about their relationship while Braden is off calling Kane, telling him, or texting Kane rather, telling him that it was done. And so while he's away, Effie and Tariq, they're talking about their relationship, talking about, taking it to the next level. And Effie is like, so we're going to be like the Bonnie and Clyde of Stansfield. And Tariq laughs it off, and he was like, no, because he was like, remember what he said. He says, I'm smarter and I'm better than my dad. So he says, no, we're going to be like Thomasine and Bushrod. And she was like, who the hell is that? So if you don't know, Thomasine and Bushrod were a knockoff Bonnie and Clyde, but they were actually black. All right, and it's like from the 1970s or some shit like that. It's like a real show. So it's a fictional show at that. But it was set in New Mexico, and what they pretty much did in the show, they were out stealing from the rich, killing the rich, stealing from the rich, and sharing that wealth with the poor. It didn't matter what race they were, black, white, or in between. And that's pretty much what they did. So that's pretty much who he was mentioning when he made that statement. See, right here on Recap with Mo, we give you all the information about, the context, right? So anyway, we're going to move on from there. So moving on from there, we see Kane, Drew, and Lorenzo. They're getting ready to meet the new crew who just lost their Connect, right? So they're coming in, and Drew comes to the door, and when he comes to the door, it's like four guys that comes in, and they're like, oh, I remember you used to be a little fat kid. And he was like, yeah, I remember. And he said, yeah, you grown up. So while he's standing there and he's talking about how big he's gotten and how he looks, he puts his hand on the back of his head where he's able to show the back of his wrist. And if you go back to the beginning of the show, we see where Drew is going through his text messages through social media, and he finds this picture on one of those dating sites with the guy with his wrist showing with that same type of tattoo. So, and it looks exactly like the guy that's standing in the penthouse. So I was like, oh, damn, like, what is going on, man? So anyhow, um, they pretty much talk it out, and the guys that's coming in, they're a little bit suspicious at this point, because why are you calling us now knowing that our connect just went down suspiciously and it was a black guy that did it? But no, Kane was like, no, it was a white guy. I'm not the right complexion. So of course that threw them off a little bit, because one of them was like, well, who told you it was a white guy that did it? Oh. So right then and there, Kane was like, oh shit. But Lorenzo was there to save the day. But, he stuck his foot in his mouth too, because of what he said. Obviously, Kane didn't like it. So when the guys agreed to work with him, they pretty much said, okay, we'll be in contact with you. So as they left, Lorenzo was talking about he was getting ready to leave. And, another key part of this is when the guys agreed to work with him, the young guy came over to Lorenzo to shake his hand and said, okay, we good. But Lorenzo said, no, you're going to work through Kane. He's going to mastermind all of this. He's going to control it. So, of course, Drew already had some type of feeling from the meeting that they had recently with Diana, and Lorenzo at the table, and Kane talking crazy to everybody. So he said, something ain't right about this shit. Something ain't right. So he leaves about upset. Lorenzo is getting ready to leave, and Kane tells him, you put on a little bit too much when you said what you said, so nigga, I need you to do a little extra work. So I ain't like the way that was feeling. So I think you were putting on too much. So I need you to put some more on the table. So Lorenzo's pissed off about it. He said, I'm getting ready to go home. No, nigga, you not. So from there, we see Davis and Saxe, right? So Davis is at the office and Saxe is So next we see Davis and Saxe. They're at the office, and Davis comes in to discuss his brother's case with Saxe. And Saxe is like, why couldn't you just tell me he was your brother? So, of course, that caught Davis off guard a little bit. And then Davis was like, pretty much, Saxe was like, pretty much, there was a discrepancy. I went down there before I went to the prison, and I found out a little bit more of the information. And just looking at you, you stand about 6'2", 6'3", and obviously Rollins does not stand that high off the ground. So obviously it's you. Why are you allowing your brother to take this fall for you? Because I definitely wouldn't do that for my brother. So of course Davis has to admit that, it was him. He was 21 at the time when the situation went down, and it was already, the decision was already made from the family, because Davis was getting ready to go to law school. So his brother Rollins, Theo Rollins, just pretty much took the deal for him. But what he did not know is what he knows now, as he stated that the deal that they took was a messed up deal, because his brother is messed up for quite a while. And I believe it's for life, but he's trying to get his brother up out of there. So ironically, Saxe admits that he's going to help him, because he already knows that with the documents and everything, he sees everything that's been retracted, and he already knows that they're hiding something. So Davis is excited about that. So I was, this is the one time that I can say that I'm pleased that Saxe is at the office. But the rest of that shit that he does be foul. So I will leave it at that. All right, so next we head back over to the dormitory, and we see both Celine and Diana. They're in the room, and they're in the midst of getting something started until it's ended. So there's a knock on the door. It's Lorenzo, her dad. He comes in. Hey, am I breaking up something? Hell yeah, you messing up something. But obviously, it ain't that important. I'm going to let it go, because obviously, Salim knows who her dad is, since he did all the Google research. So he don't want no problems. So when he gets there, when Lorenzo comes in, Salim leaves. He said he'll call her later. And pretty much Lorenzo says, hey, baby, I need your help. You were right. it seems like it would be easier at this point for Lorenzo just tell the facts, man. Hey, I did some things. Kane is holding it over my head right now. But of course he can't say no shit like that because of the person that he killed. So he just pretty much has to play along with it. And now he has to place his baby girl into the fire as well. So he drops the drugs off up there and tell her, hey, I'm going to need your assistance. I know it's hot up here on the campus, but I need your help right now. So she agrees to assist him in that. And she says, Mommy and Daddy taught me everything, so I'm going to be all right. Y'all did good. So from there, meanwhile, over at Monet's, she calls Davis because he's looking at her daggone camera. And why does she see Whitman sitting in her driveway or sitting in front of her street, like just waiting on her to come out? So she calls Davis and she was like, I thought you said this shit was handled. And he was like, it is handled. And she's like, well, why am I seeing Whitman sit in front? Well, he's sitting in my driveway. I think she said in my driveway. And he was like, okay, yeah, we handled it, but we handled it to the degree where he's off the case. So every time he shows up, just document it. So she took a snapshot of him on the camera, on the video feed. All right, so now we head back over to the warehouse where both Braden and Tariq were earlier, talking about the coffee beans and all of that stuff. And Braden this time we have Braden, Effie, and Tariq. So they received these boxes. They're opening it up. And in the boxes, it has these cups with the little compartments underneath. And I said, damn, that's fresh. Like, you know, even if you weren't doing no drugs illegally, you can put some money up underneath. You do all types of shit with that. I thought that was pretty, inventive, man. But, the product looks good. Tariq is like, okay, where in the hell are these Jamaicans with the beans? So he leaves, and when he leaves, it seems like every time he leaves the room, there's always a sidebar conversation between Effie and Braden about something he don't know. So of course, Effie is like, that's pretty smart of you, Braden, for this whole idea that you had with the, the little Bitcoins and stuff like that, because they were already receiving orders and shit like that. So she also asked him, because of his response, she was like, did you have something to do with Tariq not getting his internship? And she was like, he's going to be pissed off about that. So he admitted it to her, but she was like, yeah, he's going to be real highly pissed off about that. So anyway, so while he's in the midst of talking to Effie, Braden receives a text message directly from Kane, like, we need to meet up. And he tells him to meet where they meet, right? So Braden says, okay, I'm going to get up out of here. He goes to meet Kane. He's sitting outside on the bench, and he's waiting on Kane to show up. Kane comes out of nowhere, places the gun to his temple or his jaw or something like that. I believe it's his temple. And he was like, nigga, what happened? Because why are they telling me that it was a black man that did it and not a white man? We got a problem. And he was like, I need you to tell me right now, nigga, who did it? Because you obviously didn't do it. I need to know the person that you hired. So Braden's like, hold on. Everything that I did, you're going to be good. It ain't going to be no issues. They won't even be looking for you. It's handled. But Kane's point of view is, okay, well, who handled the other situation at this point? So Braden's like, no, remember you saw it on the news, Kane. And Braden's like, yeah, just think about that for a moment. Kane is like, yeah, I saw it on the news, but I know you didn't do it. So who did it? So pretty much, long story short, nothing happens to Braden. Kane lets him go. But after, he's feeling generous right now, so he ain't going to do nothing to Braden. But he says, you get the hell up out of here before I change my mind. So Braden leaves. So before Kane gets ready to go, he calls Effie and he say, what's good? Hey, we need to talk. And that's pretty much how the episode ends. So this episode was pretty cool, man. I think it laid a lot of ground on what's to come. So it was very informative. And like I said, I always like the discussion in the classroom, but I do feel like that Braden is going to have to step up at some point, because eventually Kane is going to find out about what he did not do previously. and he's also going to possibly have some difficulty with these fellas that he's trying to bring into this camp. So what are your thoughts? Let me know your thoughts. Also, like and subscribe to this video as always, and we'll be back with another one soon. All right, peace.